These are Ghana Armed Forces under fire for what many describe as poor response to recent helicopter crash which claimed the lives of 8 individuals.
Also, there's our final funeral rites for late Minister for Environment, Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, and Deputy National Security Coordinator Alhaji Muniru Limuna ongoing. This afternoon, we are live with updates.
Meanwhile, the president has been announcing government's intention to set up educational fund for the children of the helicopter crash victims.
In sports, the GFA holds its 31st Ordinary Congress to decide on extended term for president of the Ghana Football Association. We've got details of that as well. Thank you for your time this afternoon. This is News Central, and I'm Kemini Amano.
And I am Mawinite Beta. The bulletin starts right now.
Now, more questions are being asked following the poor handling of the recent helicopter crash site. Member of the NDC communications team, Hamza Suhini, wants President Mahama to realign the military following failure to at least secure the crash site.
Sadly, I am about to end my discussion on this platform again, calling on the response and poor response of the Ghana Army, especially as far as this
Ghana Army?
Yes, Ghana
the armed forces?
Both. Just the entire institution of the military. Because you see, Roland, I am at pains. I have struggled for this, and the pain is yet to leave my chest, to be honest with you. You see, for some time, I was thinking that the paucity that has engulfed our state institutions, the military was an exception.
What did they do?
For something of this nature to have happened, on board was the Minister for Defense. And even at the crash sites, for hours, after the Ghana military issued a statement about a missing helicopter, and the news eventually came about the discovery of same, it had to take civilians of the Republic of Ghana after an hour or two to be seen actively on the site of the crash, trying to salvage the situation. For hours, it took citizens, civilians of this republic, who carried the remains.
But what did they do wrong?
Please.
We're told that you look at the location of the place.
The discipline that characterized our military operations.
Because
the system,
Wing Commander Sobojo, he's been defending the actions and the standard operating procedures that were deployed.
Roland. These are the people who are supposed to defend the republic in case of an emergency. And they could not mobilize to get to the site of the mortal remains of their defense minister in a matter of an hour. They could not secure the perimeters of the crash site for their own investigations. They could not dignify these gallant servants of our republic by even taking charge of their remains and carrying it as our military. What were they engaging? The top rank of the Ghana military. So it is not just.
You're sharing your personal opinion?
Yes, but okay. Roland, this is scary.
But
in
also,
all honesty, Roland, you see, I expect. I expect the government and His Excellency President Mahama, I expect serious repositioning as far as the Ghana military is concerned. Because what they did, what I witnessed, I never thought in my lifetime I would have witnessed that level of inefficiency. It pains me to say this because many of my friends are in there.
And they tell you that they are inefficient?
I saw it, they didn't have to communicate it. This was one of the state institutions I was holding on to with some hope until this happened. What? Were you not shocked?
Yeah,
no red tape to even cover or to protect the scene of the accident.
So the explanation, again, that has been given by Wing Commander
There's a military base in Brahafo region. There's a military base in Kumasi.
Which is
where was our military? The defense minister of the Republic of Ghana? Why? And you, all of us, want to brush this under the radar and pretend as if everything was all right? This is not right. Because you see, it is not just about the death of these people. It also sends a signal internationally about the reputation of the Ghana army. And we should be worried. That conduct has exposed this country badly, Roland.
Yeah.
Hamza Suhini is a member of the NDC communication team in that conversation with Roland Walker on New Day earlier. Now, in the aftermath of the helicopter crash, there are many calls demanding an immediate review of all existing aircrafts within the country's fleet to authenticate their safety. The majority in Parliament says the checks must be extended to the recently purchased helicopters for the Ghana Police Service, arguing they are not fit for purpose. We can now speak to Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, and he's also a member on the Defence Committee in Parliament, Ernest Nogbe. Good afternoon, Honourable. Quickly, let's talk about the 3 helicopters that you say are not fit for purpose. Why do you say that?
Yes,
Well, Honourable, come again with that. Honourable, I'm asking why you think that, first of all, we need to do a review of our fleet, and then 3 helicopters we have purchased at this time are not fit for purpose. It would appear we have lost Ernest Nogbe over the phone lines, but essentially, questions are now being raised not only about the crash site, the response of the military, response of emergency team, the entire emergency response architecture of this country to the incident. Questions are now being asked about whether the effectiveness of that, whether or not the right things were done, whether the response was swift, whether it was effective enough to have prevented a defilement of the crash site as far as evidence is concerned, but also the dignity of the victims of the crash. Now we are being told that it's important that we also check the fleet we have as far as our air machines or air vehicles are concerned. So far, we hear that 3 helicopters may not be fit for purpose. And we'll find out briefly from Ernest Nogbe, who is a member of the Defence Committee in Parliament, why that is the case and what could be the solution to that at this time.
While we try to reconnect the phone lines and speak to the Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, Professor of Clinical Psychology Joseph Osafo was called on government to another memory of the 8 people killed in the recent helicopter crash by taking decisive steps to end the menace of Galamsey. According to the experts, this bold move will not only bring solace to the bereaved families, but also contribute to the nation's overall well-being. He further explains the role community and individual support plays in helping these families navigate their grief and heal.
Let's begin from the community support system. In fact, in the traditional setup, you would have a family member who would leave his or her house and come to spend some time with you. Now that particular arrangement it's so relevant because what it does is that it's saying that we should not leave you alone. You have to be supervised. If you're not very careful to ask people to ventilate and they overventilate, it leads to re-traumatization. Now, beyond what the community can do is also the individual. Because at the end of the day, once they are laid to rest, life continues. Take your self-help activities or self-grooming serious. You wash down, you walk, you do your exercises, you eat, you try to sleep. Others will tell me that, it's not easy to sleep. I agree. It's not. And that's why you make the effort. Read stories of people's loss, bereavement, and how to go through. It's really helpful. Listen to good songs. I think the government has done very well and is doing well. One of them was the initial communication that came from the Ministry of Communication that people should desist from sending this gory content. It's just very, very good. Government is commiserating with the family. I can see that government took initial steps in trying to evacuate their remains, trying to get forensic report on that so we can identify who is who. I think that the aspect that I would want to see government do more, I would want government to memorialize them. Government should memorialize them by intensifying the campaign against Galamsey. We should end Galamsey under this government. It should end. That would be, for me, the biggest testament, validation, a confirmation that the government really took their debt serious and government has really done something. Otherwise, all of this, I think that for the next couple of days when they are buried, they just wait us down and nothing happens.
In more news this afternoon, final funeral rites for the late former Minister for Environment and MP for Tamale Central, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, is ongoing in the northern region. We'll now cross over to our correspondent, Christopher Amwakom. Chris, talk to us about how things are playing out there so far.
Yes, Kemini, I must say that it's been a sad day here in the Greater Tamale Metropolis, especially the home of the late Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Murtala Mohammed. Lots of mourners gathered here earlier today to be part of the final funeral rites. Government delegation, other scores of people from other parts of the world and in the country were gathered at the family house to observe the final funeral rites. And Kemini, one thing that kept popping up from the mouths of people has been the fact that the late Murtala Mohammed was a God-fearing person. He was a go-to person, and he was someone who humbled himself amongst the people that came his way. And so he will be remembered for a whole lot of things. The government delegation came in. It was led by the NDC national chairman, that is Johnson Asedu Nketia, together with other ministers of state, members of parliament, and others from the opposition New Patriotic Party. But Kemini, right now in Tamale, the final funeral rites is over and people are beginning to leave their place. Now, the funeral rites have been performed early because of the sect of Islam that the late Member of Parliament belonged to. We all know that he belonged to the Al-Sunnah community, and for them, had it not even been for the fact that the burial was done in Accra, it means that the very day that the burial was done, that was on Sunday, it could have ended the funeral rites of the late Member of Parliament. But they have to bring the funeral home and perform. That is why we have the final funeral rites. So from today, apart from probably if the maternal home of the late Member of Parliament, that is the people of Savannah region, the people of Daboya, if they want to also perform the funeral rites of their nephew, they can pick the funeral to Daboya, fix a date, and also perform. Aside from that, this marks the end of the Islamic funeral rites of the late Member of Parliament. Kevin.
I see. We understand that the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asedu Nketia, spoke at the funeral. Talk to us about his own remarks.
Okay, so Kemini, first of all, he mentioned that the death of the late Member of Parliament has united Dagbon and its entire northern regions. And so he expects the people to be able to sustain that unity that his death has brought about. He's also talked about the fact that applauding the New Patriotic Party for staying off the contesting the Tamale Central seat. And so he has also been admonishing his party members to hasten slowly in their bid to contesting the seat. Finally, he talked about the fact that it appears that people are making prophecies all over, and prophecies of doom and calamity across the country. And he has also been urging the religious leaders to be circumspect with the kind of prophecies that whatever that happens is the will of Allah and God. And as a Christian, he believes that even before something happens, God is aware of it. And so we should not use prophecy as a tool to talk doom or calamity about the country. He's also said that he's urging the President, John Dramani Mahama, not to be swayed by any form of prophecy that seeks to bring calamity to the country. He should remain focused and prayerful, and that the entire people of the Republic of Ghana should pray for the president, government, and everyone in the helm of affairs, so that we can have a better Ghana, and that will see development going forward.
Indeed, Christopher, we'll leave our conversation here. Thank you so much for keeping an eye on events for us. Christopher Mwako is our Northern Region correspondent.
Let's return to that interview with a Shima Member of Parliament and Member of the Defence Committee, Ernest Nogbe. He's joined us right now. Honourable, thank you very much for speaking to us. You say, amongst many things, a need for a review of aircrafts, but most importantly, that be extended to the 3 owned by the Ghana Police Service. Why so?
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. Let me, first of all, once again extend my condolences to the Biri family, especially my 2 brothers, Honorable Mutala and then Dr. Omani Buama. Yes, it's a great loss to us, but we take solace in the fact that one day we will all be called to account for our stewardship. Yes, we are mourning, but the fact still remains that there are some aircraft that were purchased for the Ghana Police Service a few years ago that are not fit for purpose. The fact still remains that somewhere in the previous administration, Parliament approved a loan for the Ghana military to purchase some 6 fighter aircraft from Czech Republic. That is the L-39 new generation. But as we speak now, that have not seen the light of day. We approved the loan in Parliament. Some committee members even went to Czech Republic to also inspect the aircraft. But as we speak now, that have not come to light. But the government went behind Parliament, something that did not come to Parliament for approval, to purchase 3 helicopters from South Africa. And those 3 helicopters, as we speak now, are not fit for purpose, because these are very old helicopters that were purchased for the Ghana Police Service. And they even train pilots. They train pilots purposely for these 3 helicopters. But as we speak, if it is today that these pilots that we spent money on will fly any aircraft or even a helicopter, we are yet to see. So the purchase of that helicopter was done in secrecy, in the darkness, did not come to Parliament for any approval, no value for money. And as we speak now, the aircraft have not even made 1,000 kilometers of journey. When the aircraft came, when the helicopter came, it was a fanfare. Oh, we purchased 3 helicopters for the Ghana Police Service. And for the first time they flew that aircraft and landed. God saved them, and they landed till today. It is in the hangar. Nobody is using it. It's not fit for purpose, because this is a very old aircraft that was purchased for the Ghana Police Service. And that is why I'm saying that this is a financial loss to the state, and it must be investigated.
Investigated, like you say, in mass. Would this be in the purview of the Defense and Interior Committee? Because you say that the previous administration purchased these 3 helicopters outside the oversight responsibility of Parliament.
Outside, exactly so, outside the oversight responsibility of Parliament. And the committee, anything that came to the committee during that period was approved, because we also realized that the Ghana Armed Forces or the security services needed to be retooled. And so anything that they brought, like the upgrading of the 37 military hospital, we approved it for them. And they also brought something we call the purchase of these cameras in all the cities. We also approved that. But whether those things were also purchased is another matter in Parliament. Because we saw the necessity, the need for us to retool the security services, not only the Ghana Armed Force or the Air Force, but even the police service, the immigration service, the prisons, and all of those, the fire service, we needed to retool them. So that is why we were of the view at the committee that anything that will inure to the benefit of the people or that will protect the sanctity of our nation, because when there's any extremist, as we speak now, it is the security agencies that will take up the challenge. And so we needed to equip them. We cannot be using yesterday's equipment to fight today's battle or to solve today's problems.
Right.
And so
just finally on the review, where do you stand in the recent criticism which is fast coming to the Ghana Armed Forces over the response time to the 8 as well? Because many people are saying that it could have been better, it should have been better.
I didn't get that well.
I'm asking that outside of the review of the aircrafts that needs to be done, there are those who are asking questions about the 8 that crashed, unfortunately, last week. Criticism of the Ghana Armed Forces that their response time was not the best and it should have been better.
Oh, well. I wouldn't want to go into that for now because we are still investigating the incident, how it occurred. And if you remember where the incident occurred, it took even the locals almost 2 hours to get to the destination. And I'm not sure there's any barracks around that area that could have propelled the military to fast-track any action. So I wouldn't want to go into this detail to blame the military at this point in time. But it was meant to happen, and it has happened. What we need to do is to chart a course so that in the near future, we avert almost all these things happening to us, because we cannot lose 8 officials. You see, there are so many things that we needed to do in the future to make sure that these problems do not occur. Even the security architecture, when I talk of retooling, there are not only the equipment, even the human resource in the security service. We need to do a lot of engagement.
Right, Honourable, we'll leave it here. That's Dr. Ernest Nogbe. He's Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, as well as a member of the Defence and Interior Committee, speaking to us this afternoon.
We can now cross over to a reporter who is also watching the funeral of the Deputy National Security Coordinator, Alhaji Muniru Limuna. Lord Edu Asare has been speaking to mourners at the final funeral rites. Lord, what can you report right now? Oh, it appears Lord cannot hear me at this time. Alhaji Muniru Limuna is one of 8 men who perished in that helicopter crash last Wednesday. We saw the final funeral rites over the weekend on Sunday. There is a final phase of that as far as Islamic tradition and family customary rights are concerned, which is what is happening now, where Lord Edu Asare is for us. Now let's try Lord again, if he can give us the very latest as far as this is concerned. Lord, what can you report?
Adria held in honor of the former Deputy Director of the National Security, former Deputy of the National Security Coordinator, Alhaji Mohammed Muniru Lumina, who was part of the 8 who lost their lives tragically in that helicopter crash last week, which was the 8th of August. Now, today, several words were used for him. Now, 3 words that stood out for me, especially by President Mahama, was that he was someone who was hardworking, he was extremely reliable, and he was full of integrity. By and large, this has been the words which has been thrown out describing Alhaji. Now, former President Mahama also indicated that a fund will be established and will actually be announced on Friday, which we know will be the day that a state funeral is being held for the victims. Now, he indicated that that fund has been set up to, as it were, make the public or persons donate for the education and to cater for the children of the victims who perished in that helicopter crash. Now, some more ministers of state have been speaking. For example, the former Minister for Environment, Samuel Abu-Jinapo, he indicated that this man, Alhaji, he was more than an uncle. He also talked about the fact that he was very reliable as a minister. He was very hardworking. Now, the Member of Parliament for Salaga South, Mahama Zuera Ibrahima, she indicated that he practically picked her up, Alhaji, I should say, practically picked her up and groomed her to what she is today. And so she's also been full of praise for Alhaji Muniru Lumina. I have with me here the Member of Parliament for Daboya Mangariku. He's in the person of SK Mahama. He's going to share with me what he makes of Alhaji Muniru Lumina. I mean, he's departed. We've been praying for him. But what are your words of fondest memory of him so far? And what did you make of him as Minister of State?
Well, I mean, words cannot even describe how we feel about the loss. The President, His Excellency John Mahama, has summarized it in 3 words. That is a very dedicated, selfless individual who has touched lives in the entire community of Savannah and beyond. And so it's a great loss. For me as a person, he's a nephew. I mean, the mother is my sister. And so both Wasipeda, Zaboya, and Damango, we are all grieving because we have lost an illustrious son in the person of Alhaji Mohammed Muniru Limuna. It's quite irreparable, but Allah says He gives and He takes, and so we take solace from that.
I mean, you being his nephew, what are some of the things that readily come to you when you think about his memory?
Yeah, I mean, is a very selfless individual. I mean, if I mention the number of people he has groomed, number of students he has paid school fees, number of families he has uplifted from the doldrums, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, so this is a great person. This is a person who has touched many lives, not just in the community that he's come from, but the entire country. You would notice from the people who have come here that each and every person has a connection with him. And everybody will say, oh, a day before he died, we had a phone call. A day before he died, I had this to do with him. That is such a person we are talking about. I mean, he's such a great chap. And we pray that Allah will have mercy on his soul.
Kemini, so words of SK Mahama, the MP for Daboya Magnarigu, and he's also the chairperson of the Parliamentary Legal Affairs. He's been eulogizing Alhaji Mohammed Lumina Muniru, outlining how he's affected him, his career path, and essentially him as a person. Several people have been gathered here to eulogize the man. This is actually the residence of Alhaji Mohammed Lumina Muniru, where he's being eulogized. The prayers are being offered on his behalf. Earlier, the chief imam, the national chief imam, prayed for his soul that God will forgive his sins and that his deeds will be seen and then he'll be blessed in that regard.
Lord Edu Asare with that live report. You're still here on News Central, live on TV3. We'll now bring you by the numbers.
Also here on News Central, by the numbers coming your way right now. But just before we do that, there's some communication coming through from the National Communications Authority suspending the license of some 6 radio stations. I want to take you through that statement verbatim and what exactly it says. It's dated the 12th of August, 2025, and it reads that the National Communications Authority has suspended the operations of 9 radio stations for various infractions, and so the number is 9. 9 radio stations having their licenses suspended. The first 6 failed, refused, and neglected to comply with the regulatory amnesty by taking no action. Consequently, the operations of the following stations have been suspended. Remember that a number of these stations had their licenses suspended. The president stepped in. There was an amnesty. Well, these first 6, which I'm going to name, did not take advantage of that amnesty. That's the communication by the NCA. And they include Don Plus Multimedia Limited, Dreams Ghana Media Limited, Jam Multimedia Limited, Jewel Group Limited, Pandai, Star Community Radio, and Unique Gateway Communication Limited. These 6 did not take advantage of the amnesty as granted by the president. Well, the other 6, according to the statement, were violations, and the stations did not take steps to remedy the breaches during the amnesty period. And amongst many other things, these are the 3: Wuntumi Multimedia Company Limited, Accra, that's their frequency 95.9. Wuntumi Multimedia Company Limited 101.3 Kumasi, and then Wuntumi Multimedia Company Limited 101.3 Takrady. And so all of the 3 Wuntumi radio stations as captured in this statement have had their licenses terminated because of violations the NCA says they did not rectify during the amnesty period, and that's the latest by way of details from the National Communications Authority. We'll have the full explanations and all of it when you log on to 3news.com. But right now, let's bring you by the numbers, because the country is continuing to mourn the loss of a military helicopter crash which claimed the life of some 8 individuals on August 6th. Now, as a nation grieves, attention is turning to the official timelines which point to significant delays in search and rescue efforts and are fueling a growing demand for answers. Today on By the Numbers, we put the matter to a bit more scrutiny. We know, amongst many other things, the time the helicopter took off, 9:12, on a routine flight to Obuasi for that cooperative mining launch. Was expected to arrive at 10:02. But what are the things and what are the questions being asked, and what were the expectations as with regards protocols that should have guided everything that we saw? We've seen, amongst many other things, a member of the NDC communications team heavily criticized the military. We'll seek to subject that to a bit more expert opinion, but right now, here's what we know based off on officially communicated detail to us by authorities. And so, from what we know, that flight duration was expected to be 50 minutes, taking off at 9:12, expected time of arrival being 10:02. But in everything that we saw happen, it took 3 hours, 41 minutes for the Ghana Armed Forces to officially communicate to the entire public that the aircraft had gone off radar. And that was at 13:43, that's 1:43. That's the time they communicated. It doesn't suggest whether or not the internal communication also took that long, but based off on official communication to the Ghanaian people, that's the time. Well, in terms of the search and rescue trigger, we know that after no contact with the aircraft, that's supposed to happen 30 minutes after there's a difficulty in being able to establish contact with the aircraft. And then we know as well that it took us 4 hours, 18 minutes after the flight took off for a confirmation to come from the Chief of Staff in that televised address of the crash and the death of the victims as well. But let's walk you through a bit more in terms of the detailed timeline. And we've done a bit of it already: time of departure, expected time of arrival, when, amongst many other things, per our own conjecture, we should have been seeing search and rescue deployed because the expected time of arrival was what, 10:02, and so perhaps per that 30-minute standard protocol, we should have been seeing a lot more of this around that time. We know the communication of the aircraft being lost on radar was at 1:43 amongst many other things, and then at 14:22 that was communicated. Let's take you onto the phone lines right now and speak to Colonel Retired Festus Abuaje. He will have a bit more for us in terms of the answers because he's a former military chief as well, and he's been doing a lot of digging with respect to these questions that are coming in thick and fast. Colonel, I appreciate your time. Where do you stand for starters on the argument that the military or the Ghana Armed Forces did not do enough to secure the site of the crash and perhaps deploy search and rescue in time?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And once again, very sincere condolences to the bereaved families. And of course, to all of us as Ghanaians. I am not sure of the basis of those who are arguing that the military did not do well. They have not explained the basis. So what I want to do is to lay out the facts in order to place the various responses into context. We know for a fact, because we were told by the armed forces, that the plane's actual time of departure, ATD, was 0900 12 minutes on the 6th. You said that the plane's expected duration was about 50 minutes. So by 10:02, the plane was expected to have arrived at Obuasi. But 14 minutes after takeoff, the plane went off radar. And I want to emphasize that when a plane is off radar, it does not necessarily mean that the plane has crashed.
Right.
It simply means that the plane is flying at a height or in a terrain where the radar cannot, detect it. Anywhere between 1,000 feet up to 3,000 feet, or maybe under 1,000 feet. Radars cannot reach, the helicopter.
Right.
It didn't mean that the plane crashed 14 minutes
after
14
takeoff.
minutes after takeoff.
Right.
No. That would have been somewhere in the Achim area. But we know now that the plane crashed in the Dampier rainforest, which is very close in the Adansi area to Obuasi. So, procedurally, after 10:02, you give 30 minutes, which is the first indicating that you have not found the aircraft. You cannot contact it. That's 10:32.
Right.
Then another 30 minutes, making 1 hour, 11:02. If the aircraft has still not been contacted, then a distress call is made. So materially, any substantive response, whether from the Air Force, whether from the Army in Kumasi, or anybody at all, would have been triggered after 11:02. Now let's see some of the things that happened after the response or after the triggering of the distress.
Right, Ken, we'll come to what happened after the triggering of the response, but there are a number of questions people are asking. That when the aircraft went off radar after, 14 minutes of takeoff, was there communication still? Because it suggests from the conversation we're having, it suggests you have some more detail which we do not have as the public. Was there communication still between the Z9 and control towers even after going off radar? And what is the protocol if there is no communication with the aircraft after going off radar?
So the investigation team, preliminary investigation team, has not come out to tell us any details. What I know is that technically, the Z9 helicopters do not have what we call ELT, emergency locating transmitters. They don't have that device. But the Z9s have two sets of radios. The VHF that can enables the helicopter to talk to Accra, especially civil aviation.
Right.
And then the HF, which is, low frequency and so on. Now, I am not in a position to tell whether the pilot used these other means of communication to talk to either Accra or talk to Kumasi or talk to Obuasi. For that information, we need to wait for the preliminary investigation team. But you see, by 14 minutes after takeoff, you don't necessarily declare an emergency because the procedure is that the plane can go off radar, and that wouldn't mean the plane has crashed.
Which is a fair point.
Yes, it means that the plane is at a place where the terrain or some other weather conditions do not allow contact by radar or for the radar to capture the plane's location. So materially, we need to look at the 11:02 onwards.
And what the response was.
Yes. I estimated way back Friday, Saturday that if you add the 15 minutes to the 0912, by 0953, if the plane 0953, 0955, in any case by 1000 hours, if the plane was not at Obuasi, then something may have gone wrong. So the Air Force contacted Kumasi at the latest by 1100 hours. But I'm aware that they made a call to Kumasi asking, do you have sighting of this aircraft in and around Obuasi? So the efforts to find the plane started between 10 and 1100 hours. First of all, one element was that the 4th Infantry Battalion of the Central Command has got a forward operating base at Obuasi. The plane was originally expected to land at the Lon Clay Sports Stadium,
where
the minister and co were already assembled. So if the plane wasn't there, the FOB was directed to go to the Ashanti Gold Airfield. I don't know how far away it is, so I'm not very conversant with the geography of Obuasi.
Absolutely.
That was one leg of the search, not the investigation.
So, Colonel, per your understanding of the operations after 1100, the military adhered to strict protocols and standards in terms of the response to emergencies after the designated 1 hour?
Well, from what I know, I've just started by giving you what the military did, which is not all. Another team led by the commanding officer of the 4th Infantry Battalion, technically the search team, which along the way became a rescue team. For once, it became clear from media reports that the plane was on fire, had burnt, and so on. You were not going to search and rescue. You were going to search and recover. That OBN team got to the impact site. Now remember, your media reporters have said that the impact site is not 5 minutes walk from Sikamai.
Absolutely.
OBN is in Kumasi. It takes time to drive from Kumasi along whether to Obuasi or to a Krofrom or wherever it is, and reach Sikamai. And then another 45 minutes to 1 hour to get to the impact site.
Right. Colonel, I understand you on that, and I get the fact that that was done, but there are questions still lingering as to the investigation, because you have as well confirmed to me that we will need a bit more answers from the investigation. Shouldn't we be getting up-to-the-minute updates with respect to what has been done since the search and recover was undertaken and the progress of investigations considering the national nature of this incident?
You are perfectly right. I have said it. In fact, not even our emergency response. We're a country where our culture is not to tell the citizens or the public anything. Now, whether it is a Piate or whether it is a Koshombo Dam spillage, whatever it is, you will never get the periodic updates. in the way and manner in which we see on BBC and CNN, where a state governor and his police chief and his military chief and this and that are assembled. The politician says the scene, then the professionals fill in the gaps and update Americans and the global public as to what is. That is not our culture here. So up till today, apart from the press release from the military,
we've got no update at all.
Nothing. And that is not good. You don't manage any situation that way. You see, all that you are supposed to put out are the facts. For instance, the misinformation about the military didn't fly an aircraft, which I made myself on News File on Saturday, only to get to know that the next helicopter that we have, which is the Mi-17 Russian, is based at Tamale for Baku crisis duties.
Right.
The plane was task ordered to fly to Kumasi, which it did.
Right. So, Colonel, should we be expecting that they should be addressing us, the military, because there are even questions about the airworthiness of this Z9 helicopter, considering there's been reports that it had to do a number of emergency landings in the past.
I didn't hear you very well on that. But what you and I know is that if the media needs information, let them get to the armed forces, or let them get to the Ministry of Communication, our good friend Okosu Kwachi and so on.
Right.
You see, none of us has the right to, to make wrong assumptions and then speculate as to what happened. And this morning I was a bit concerned about some of the statements being made on certain media platforms, which were falsehoods. You cannot accuse the armed forces of not having done enough.
Right.
If you are not able to piece all the activities that they conducted together in order to determine where they were slow, where they were not slow. Whatever I said, a second helicopter should have been deployed for an aerial search and rescue. I didn't know at the time that the Mi-17 had flown to Accra, Kumasi. But by the time it could take off in the air, it was clear that the plane, the site had been found, and the bodies were charred and so on. So there was no need for a rescue.
Colonel, I appreciate you.
Simply, yes.
I appreciate your thoughts and your perspectives that you've brought to the conversation this afternoon. Unfortunately, we'll have to end it here for the sake of time. That's Colonel Retired Festus Abuaje speaking to us this afternoon, and it is quite obvious that a lot more is required from the investigative team in charge of this. A lot more updates, like Colonel has stated. But that brings us to the end of By the Numbers and to our very first break here on the Bulletin.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle.
From the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Asante Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News, leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Welcome back to News Central. Now, Santehima Nanama Konedu Yadom III has passed. The Santehene Otumfuose II confirmed her demise on Monday during an Asante Man Council at the Menchia Palace in Kumasi. The Queen Mother, who died on Thursday, spent 8 years on the stool.
Over 30 paramount chiefs gathered at the Menchia Palace. Sorrowful. The news is bad. Regalia and facial expression speak volumes. The 14th Queen Mother has passed. A sad day for Santeman, and the king has to break the unfortunate news.
So the person who dey be a sabe o dey ka sabe duma do dey o dey no aso ko na na mo so na no.
Nana Amakwedu Yadom III, born Nana Amakwedu, succeeded her mother, Nana Efiakobise Wampim II, in February 2017. She lived on the stool for 8 years. The last time an Asante Queen lived 8 years on the throne was between 1828 and 1836. That was the era of Nana Yadufi, the 7th Asantehima. Immediately the Santehene finished announcing the demise of the Queen, he visited her palace to commiserate with the family at the Queen's palace. So what happens after her demise? Safo Kantanka, a monarchical historian, gave some insights.
A family issue, and the direct family is Kokofu and Kenyase, Kwabre Kenyase. So these two Queen Mothers will be in control.
Nana Kwedu Yadom III died at the age of 98.
And away from that, we know that the Ghana Football Association is holding its Congress, where amongst many other things, there are considerations for a possible third term for the GFA president. That's come up for a huge debate, whilst a lot of individuals have criticized it, particularly on social media. It does appear that the football people, as they are so called, may be granting the wish of Kat Okraku bid to get a third term as GFA president. My colleagues Mutara Yakubu and then Bailey Shen are at the side of the Congress, and there will be details for you if you stay with us a lot later here on TV3 and as well as on 3news.com. That's our bulletin for you, the Czar, as we wrap up on today's edition of News Central. We're back again tomorrow.
Indeed we are. I'm Kemini Amano.
And I am Mawina Egbeta. The afternoon show is next on your television.
Bye-bye.